Mitsurugi Ryzeal, the next meta contender. Will they give Fiendsmith a run for their money, or are they all hype and no bite? Hey guys, this is Tom Box, and today I got lined up for you guys Mitsurugi combos fully explained step by step in this deck profile. Let's keep it short, take a moment to hit that like button, hit subscribe, and ding that notification bell, especially if you've been here before, and let's just go. New deck, we're explaining mainly just the Mitsurugi cards. So for the Mitsurugi engine, we have 2 SAJI, 1 Kusanagi, 1 Night Sword Serpent. SAJI and Kusanagi on tribute and on summon trigger their effect. This one adds a Mitsurugi spell or trap from the deck, and this one adds back any Mitsurugi card in grave or in banish, so you can recover some of the banished monsters that get hit by Bistio. On top of that, the additional effect that you guys might not know, if the reptile would be destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can tribute these off instead, and since it's tributed, they might trigger as well. And the Night Sword Serpent, some people consider this a brick, so they'd rather play 3 copies of SAJI. I like this card because whenever you send this card to the graveyard as a part of the ritual fodder, then it will summon itself up from the graveyard, so providing you with an additional level 4 monster, and this is already a level 4 base deck, so that's fantastic. So that's kind of my engine here. Next, we have our other monsters, the rituals. We have 2 Ames and 1 Futsu. Ame is incredible. This is Raigeki on legs. On special summon, this is going to Raigeki your opponent's out of the board, and it makes it even harder because when your opponent wants to stop that effect, they're going to have to pay a little bit of a cost, because if they activate, say, like an imperm, try to stop it, you can chain Ame so that they have to discard a card, or else their card is going to be negated. So this is always going to be adding additional cost to your opponent. Well, quote unquote cost. It's an effect technically, but this is what this card is able to do. Really messes with the opponent, doesn't it? So that when they want to ash, it's still going to cost them an additional card. And on top of that, whenever these guys are tributed, like any of these rituals, they'll attempt to add a Mitsurugi card from the deck to hand, and if they're properly ritual summoned, they will summon themselves back out from the graveyard. And because of that, you can kind of get where I'm going with this. You can summon this card back and try to nuke the board during the opponent's turn with some of the quick play spells that you have, or even the trap card. As for Futsu, Futsu is kind of in a similar basket. Whenever opponent special summons, what you get to do is you get to target a reptile monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So yeah, that's really good, and you can use this effect once per chain. It's not even once per turn. I guess go figure. We're going back to not once per turn effects all over again, but that is why these cards are incredible. But typically this is just mainly just tribute fodder, if you ask me, but you can definitely reload your whole board. Now for the spell cards, we have ritual. You play 3 rituals. This ritual is very much in the same line of branded fusion, because you can summon the ritual in your hand by sending the tribute fodder from the deck, and if you want to summon the one from the deck, you can send the tribute fodder from field or in hand, and basically wherever you control. So that's actually pretty wild. I think it's like really incredible already. And then we play 3 prayers. Prayers is your search card. This is kind of your Rhoda. If you activate this card, you can pay the additional cost, and then you can do both effects. Keep in mind that you do take damage on this, and if you don't have enough life and you use the second effect, you are going to lose, because it's damage. It's not a cost. The damage part lets you summon a Mitsurugi from your hand or graveyard, so it kind of acts as a search and reborn in one card in a quick play spell form. And if you do send away a card, it's great, because if your opponent's trying to imperm your card, prayers lets you dodge as well. And as for the one last trap card, the Omni Negate of the deck, we have Great Purification. You do want to search up this card. Usually you tribute away one of your rituals to kind of get this card into your hand. When your opponent activates a card or effect, you can tribute a level 5 or higher reptile, negate that effect, and if you do, destroy that card. But not to mention, the other effect to keep in mind is that this also summons back from the graveyard one of your reptile monsters. All you got to do is banish this, special summon a reptile, and you also have to tribute another monster you control. So it's pretty simple. As long as you have a monster, this is now going to revive, and you can kind of pseudo Raigeki your opponent. So it almost feels like you're playing like Mirror Jade. Yeah, that's kind of it for that particular package. As for the Ryzeal, I don't think I need to explain myself. I play 3 X, 3 Ice, 2 Sword, and 1 Node. Okay, and I still play the field spell, 3 Bonfire, and that's it for the Ryzeal engine. And finally, I guess you want to see the hand trap lineup or the non-engine lineup. I'm choosing to play 2 Triple Tactics Talent just because there's a hand trap heavy format. Unless we rotate out of that and go for like board breaking, then I might switch this out. But if we're going for hand trap, this is it. I mean, I like taking detonators anyway. Triple Ash, Triple Fuelos, So this is the one that I'm choosing the main deck now. I'm choosing the main deck, the ghost spells, because there's a lot of graveyard searching, a lot of graveyard summoning, and I just want to stop it outright. You can play this, and on top I can play the Bystials. But one card I find that is losing a lot of value these days is Imperm. I mean, you can still choose to play 3 Imperm. I'm still citing the last copy, but for me, this is where it's at. It's exactly 40, and that's the main deck. Extra deck, starting with the 1 odd monster, we have 1 Haggard Lizardoise. If you get nibbed, then you can summon this monster using the token, and this card can clear itself off, providing you with a draw, and also 800ing your opponent's Nibiru. So that's also kind of nice too. So we have this just to clear names. Then we have 2 Eclipse Twins. This card, whenever it's sent to the graveyard, which is why it's so powerful, you kind of look at your graveyard, look for some rank 4 or lower monsters, if you've got 2, except for itself, and then you attach 1 to the other and summon the one that you want to put onto the field. So that's pretty wild. So it's a 1 material revive on your monster, which is why it's crazy when it comes to using this with Detonator. It just keeps your Detonator going. And speaking of Detonators, we have 2 Duo Drives and 2 Detonators. That part never really changed. This is more of an extra deck of a rank 4 because that's what the deck is capable of. And then we have 1 Meteorologic Aggregator for the negation. I think it's still really powerful. And then we play 2 King of the Feral Imps to dig out our reptiles. And with the twins, you can also use the twins to revive this, and this is off once per turn. This lets you kind of revive it and get a second search. And if you get the second search, that's SAJI and the Ritual monster. That's full combo from that point forward. As for utility monsters, we have 1 Exciton Knight, we have 1 Baguska, 1 Daguerreus, you have to play this, and you also have 1 Dweller. Dweller with a board nuke is essentially a death sentence for a lot of people, so that's why we play this particular lineup. And finally, we have 1 Typhon. All right, nice and clean, nice and simple. And guys, don't forget to check out MSTmerch.com, MSTmerch.com, where you guys can get some awesome sleeves for your deck, extra deck. If you guys want to sort your collection, we got the awesome and pretty well known now box dividers that you guys can use. And if you guys want to use some NFT sleeves because they're not for trade, well, we got not for trade sleeves just for you. Check out MSTmerch.com. We got tons of fantastic stuff that's there for your Yu-Gi-Oh and trading card game essentials. And thank you for taking the time there. It's MSTmerch.com, and let's get to the combos. It's combo time, and I'm gonna give you guys 4 combos just to get your brain juices going, because this is a very high skill ceiling deck where there are a lot of variations and deviants in terms of the combo. Just do the combo based on what you need for the situation and not just going for a cookie cutter play. All right, that's my advice to you, but there are 4 basic lines that you need to know just so that you can actually get those variations. So starting off, we have the Ritual and the Ritual spell. So we're going to activate Mitsurugi Ritual to summon out the Ame from hand. So special summon out the Ame by sending to the graveyard the materials from the deck. We're going to tribute 2 from the deck. We're going to tribute the Kusanagi and the Night Sword Serpent. Since Night Sword Serpent was sent to the graveyard by a card effect, that's going to trigger, as well as the Kusanagi. So Chainlink 1 Kusanagi, we're going to try to get back the Ritual spell, and Night Sword Serpent will summon itself out, banishing itself when it leaves the field. So this is back into hand. We're going to reactivate the Ritual, burning the second effect of the Ritual, and this time we're going to attempt to summon from the deck. And we're going to summon out the Futsu, and we're going to summon a Futsu by tributing out the Ame. Now remember, whenever the rituals are tributed, they get their effects in the graveyard as well. So we're going to trigger the Ame. Ame is going to add prayers into your hand and summon itself back. As long as it's properly summoned the first time, it can summon itself back onto the field. Now we're going to activate the prayers, and we're going to use the additional tribute as a part of the cost. And this is going to allow us to use both effects. We're going to add SAJI as part of the Mitsurugi prayers. We do take 800 damage here, but we also get a special summon of the Kusanagi from the graveyard. Now, before we forget, we did tribute off the other ritual, so the other ritual is going to activate, and this is going to help you add the trap card into your hand. So this is essentially the Omni Negate that destroys, as long as you can tribute a level 5 or higher reptile monster, which is great. It's really free. And also the Futsu summons itself back onto the field. Some people are choosing not to summon it back onto the field because if they want to go into the Ryzeal play, they need to get rid of the extra name so the X can get the additional search, so you can maintain the advantage. You can bring it back if you want. I don't think it's too big of a deal if you don't. But anyways, we got our first piece back. Now, at this point, you can just overlay these two, okay, and just make a duo drive, add ice into your hand, and get an ice play. And if you do that, I highly recommend not summoning this card back because you're going to run out of space. So, but I'm not doing that. I'm doing a slightly different line here. I want to end on Dweller as a part of my line. So I'm going to normal summon out the SAJI. SAJI effect, we're going to add another copy of Prayers into our hand. And so this is our hand count. We're still at 5, and we have 5 on board. You can overlay all of these. If you overlay all of them, then you can go for the crossplay, and if you feel safe from Nibiru, then you probably can do that. But if you want to go for a dweller play, then you might want to leave an additional body left on the field. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to overlay these two into our dual drive. If you did not get hand trap at this point, you're either just looking at a nib, or you're not really worried about any hand trap at all. Then you should just build the unbreakable board. Activate the dual drive now. We're going to detach 2 as a part of the resolution, and we're going to add to our hand sword and node, because X isn't going to dig anything for you, and everything else is really not that great. From here, we can turn these two. We're going to overlay these two, and we're going to go Eclipse Twins. Next, we're going to special summon our Sword Ryzeal. Sword Ryzeal effect. We're going to get X Ryzeal. X Ryzeal, we're going to dump into the graveyard. I guess we can dump a Myriad Logic Aggregator, or we can just dump into the graveyard the other Eclipse Twins and special summon this out. We're not going to get the Surge because we have, you know, monsters that aren't rank 4 or level 4. And from here, I'm going to overlay these two, and I'm just going to make an Abyss Dweller. I guess technically I could use the water material from the other side, but this is just mainly here so that I can actually dump into the graveyard one of my pieces. So I'm going to activate the Abyss Dweller to dump one of the names so I can actually legally activate Node Ryzeal. Special summon out the Node Ryzeal, activate the effect. We're going to dump the Eclipse Twins into the grave. We're not going to resummon out the dual drive in this case, and we're going to summon back one of our pieces, which is going to be the X Ryzeal. And then now we can overlay this, and we can make ourselves the Myriad Logic, and I'm just gonna go with Ryzeal Detonator. Ryzeal Detonator effect. We're gonna reattach one of the Eclipse Twins, and there we have it. We have the Abyss Dweller line. So what do we actually have going for this? So we can summon back some of our reptiles here so we can maintain a little bit of hand advantage. We have an Omni Negate in terms of the purification. We have 5 pops technically with the Detonator. We have a Graveyard Shutdown, and we have a Board Nuke. And with the Dweller and Board Nuke is really powerful because they're not recovering resources this time, and it usually leads to a pass turn. I like to resummon the Dweller as much as I can, so if I get a chance to kind of get rid of my own Dweller, link it off, or whatever it is, and then detach the Eclipse Twins along the way, then you can resummon the Dweller and just keep your opponent completely locked out. And on top of that, you still have 3 other cards in your hand. So if you have a handful of hand traps, you can understand why this deck is so devastating. Combo number 2. The first move already highlights how many pivots you have just from the first activation. We're going to activate the prayers, and we're going to send away the SAJI. And that's as a tribute. Now, depending on what you're running, if you are not running Night Sword Serpent, or you sided it out, then highly recommend that you're just going to go straight for the Kusanagi, unless you already have the ritual spell. But in my case, I'm not going to go for that, and I'm not really preferring that line, because if you go for that line where you summon out this, you get this back, you get the ritual spell, and you get the prayers back. The reason why I don't prefer it is because if you overlay these two, go into a dual drive, because you're going to go into a dual drive, and that gets negated, it hurts, because if you're all hand traps, you have no follow-up, and none of your cards can really be activated. If they can gas through all your hand traps, then you're gonna lose. So my preference so far that's been working all right for me is that instead of, you know, going to search this, I go straight for the ritual, just so that my opponent has to immediately trade cards with me if they want to do anything. And that's just how I like to play it personally. You don't have to if you don't want to, and if you already checked your opponent's hand, play the line that works for you. So anyways, deviance aside, we're going to add the ritual monster into our hand, and we have the ritual spell by SAJI activating, adding this to our hand. We're going to activate the ritual spell. We're going to send to the graveyard the Kusanagi and the Night Sword Serpent, summoning out our Ame. And this is going to trigger the Kusanagi, adding back the ritual spell, and we're going to summon out the Night Sword Serpent. At this point, we don't have to immediately do the ritual summon. We want to make sure that if our opponent has Nibiru or anything along those lines, we can actually use the Ame to make them force a trade. We're going to overlay the two now into a dual drive. This should be summon number 4, if I'm not mistaken. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we can activate the dual drive. This time, I'm going to focus more on a field spell-based play. Otherwise, you can still go back into the Dweller line. But because we have not normal summon, we're going to go for the Cross. And we're going to go for the Ice Ryzeal, the internal combustion engine. So this is our hand still, because we haven't burned the ritual spell. This has not been tributed. And now, so that we activate the Cross, we can normal summon out the Ice Ryzeal. Ice Ryzeal effect, we're going to go for Sword Ryzeal as the summon from deck. Sword Ryzeal is going to activate, and we're going to use that to get X Ryzeal. Now, we're going to overlay the two with the Duo Drive. We're going to go into Eclipse Twins, just so that when we push for another monster, if they want to try to do something fancy, we at least get to try and make a little bit of disruption. So, next we're going to summon out X Ryzeal, and sending to the graveyard the Myriologic Aggregator. We don't get the search because we control Ame, and now we're going to overlay into our Detonator. Detonator effect, attach the Myriologic Aggregator. And at this point, the cross is now live, so we can go play our Mitsurugi Ritual. We're going to send this to summon out the Futsu, triggering the Ame. Let's put this in defense mode just for safety reasons. Triggering the Ame. Ame is going to get the Purification, or you can go for Prayers if you want to prioritize the board nuking, because this you can just use it whenever you want. But we don't have a Dweller, so I'd rather just protect my board, so I'm going to go for the Great Purification. Okay, and we're going to summon back the Ame, making it so that it's super hard for them to kind of play through. We have so many destruction-based plays here, and an Omni Negate on top of that, and a Monster Negate. This is not an easy board to break either way. Not to mention you still have 3 other cards in your hand, and if they're hand traps, even more crap that they have to play through. That's what makes it so difficult. There's just so low effort, low cost combos that can generate boards like this. Combo number 3, Ice Ryzeal normal summon. Somehow it ends on this. Yes, there is no Detonator, but Dweller plus the ability to board nuke is more than enough half the time. If you don't want to go for Purification for the negation, then I highly recommend just going for the Prayers, because nuking your opponent's board is technically a lot more fun, in my opinion anyway. Based on that, you also have like 3 additional cards. Let's wipe the board. Normal summon Ice Ryzeal. Ice Ryzeal effect, summon out Sword Ryzeal. Sword Ryzeal grabs the X Ryzeal, overlay the 2 monsters, summon out King of the Feral Imps, detach from King of the Feral Imps, add to our hand a SAJI. Special summon X Ryzeal by sending a Myriologic Aggregator into the graveyard. Chainlink 1 X Ryzeal, chainlink 2 Myriologic Aggregator, targeting the King of the Feral Imps. Next, we add the Node Ryzeal into our hand on the resolution. Special summon out the Node Ryzeal, and we're going to send it to the graveyard, the SAJI, and we're going to special summon back our Sword Ryzeal onto the field. Now we're going to overlay the 2, and we're going to summon out number 60 Daguerreus. We're going to activate Daguerreus, summon out the SAJI in defense mode. SAJI effect is going to go off now, and that's going to activate, and that's going to provide us with a ritual spell. Now we're going to take King of the Feral Imps and the Daguerreus, overlay on top, making an Eclipse Twins, taking our other 2 monsters, and we can special summon this as our Duo Drive. Duo Drive effect that's going to attach at Ice Ryzeal. We're going to activate Duo Drive's effect now. We're going to detach 2 from the Eclipse Twins, and that's going to add to our hand an Ice Ryzeal and a cross. Has to be Ice Ryzeal because Ice Ryzeal can send the Eclipse Twins to the graveyard. Activate the Ryzeal cross to insulate from hand traps, send the Eclipse Twins into the graveyard, and summon out the Ice Ryzeal. The Eclipse Twins will go off now. We're going to target essentially the King of the Feral Imps and the number 60 Daguerreus, summoning out the King of the Feral Imps, attaching Daguerreus. We're going to detach the Daguerreus, and we're going to add our ritual monster into our hand, which is Ame. Next, we're going to activate the Mitsurugi Ritual, summoning out the Ame, sending into the graveyard Kusanagi and the Serpent. Chainlink 1, going to be Kusanagi adding back the ritual, and of course we have Night Sword Serpent summoning itself back onto the field. So we have this. We're going to overlay these 2, and we're going to summon our Abyss Dweller. We're going to activate the ritual spell. We're going to tribute off our Ame to summon out Futsu. Ame effect in the graveyard, that's going to add to our hand a Prayers and summon itself back onto the field. Now, you can end it here if you want, but if you want to turn this into another Eclipse Twins, you can activate the Prayers here. We're going to send away our Futsu as part of the cost. We're going to add SAJI into our hand, and we're going to summon back our Kusanagi. New chain, that's going to activate the Mitsurugi Futsu. That's going to summon itself back onto the field, and that's going to provide us with either a copy of Purification or Prayers. I think Prayers is just a little bit more fun because it provides you with a little bit more control of when you want to nuke the board against your opponent. Whereas if you just want to negate, that's completely fine here. From here, we're going to say we add we're going to go with this instead for now, but we're going to summon out the Eclipse Twins once again, and this is the final end board with this card in your hand, 4 more cards in hand, and this is the end board. Sometimes in Yu-Gi-Oh! You gotta eat your vegetables or play your bricks, so to speak, and so we're gonna normal summon out our sword Ryzeal because we bricked on it. Worst case scenario, we can fall back on just doing a Ryzeal combo. 9 times out of 10 at a YCS, that's gonna get negated unless this is like a top deck war between you two. You just hand trap the crap out of each other. If you want to go for like full board, then this is what it's going to look like. We're just pressing buttons at this point. We're going to add to our hand an X Ryzeal. We're going to special summon out this X Ryzeal by sending a Mereologic Aggregator into the graveyard. Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2, we're going to negate our own Sword Ryzeal, and the X Ryzeal is going to add a Node Ryzeal into our hand. This is going to be very similar to normal summoning out just 1 ice, but at least you can still get there in a similar fashion. Now next, we're going to overlay the X Ryzeal and Sword Ryzeal into King of the Feral Imps. King of the Feral Imps we're going to detach, and we're going to add SAJI into our hand. Now we've burned our normal summon, so we still have a special summon from Node. Special summon out that Node onto the field, and we're going to revive our X Ryzeal. So we're going to use the effect of Node, and we're going to summon back our X Ryzeal. Now we are not going to go into Daenerys right away because that's a dead end play. Instead, we're gonna go into our Duo Drive. Because we haven't special summoned out the Ice Ryzeal or Sword, that's what we're going to be going for. We're going to activate Duo Drive's effect, we're going to detach 2, and we're grabbing our Sword and our Ice Ryzeal, which is why we have to play multiple swords in this variant. From here, we can just overlay these two, send them last material into the graveyard, and go into the Eclipse Twins. This is going to revive the Feral Imps. Now we're going to special summon out the Sword Ryzeal. We already searched, and now we're going to special summon out the Ice Ryzeal, sending away the Eclipse Twins and the entire package. Now we're going to activate the Eclipse Twins, and we're going to go for our King of Feral Imps and Duo Drive in this particular fashion. And we're going to overlay the two together. And now we're going to detach our King of the Feral Imps, and we're going to add our Ame into our hand. Now we're going to overlay these two. I mean, sure, you can go for like a detonator if you need to, or if King of the Feral Imps got disrupted, you always have follow back of, detonator, which is like kind of nice with this deck. But we're going to go into Daenerys here. Daenerys effect, detach, summon back in defense mode, SAJI. SAJI effect, grab the ritual spell, and now we have access to the ritual spell and the ritual monster. From here, we can just overlay these two because we're never going to use them into anything else from what I know, and we can just make another copy of Eclipse Twins on here. Activate the ritual. We're going to send to the graveyard Serpent and Kusanagi, summoning out our Ame. Effect of the Kusanagi, add back the ritual spell, and of course the Serpent summon itself back onto the field. You can overlay these two so you can make a Dweller. Dweller is going to be a very big part of this deck because of the ability to nuke the board on special summon. So we can make Dweller right here. You can make it right here. I don't think spacing really matters, so I'll just put it here for now. We're going to activate the ritual again. We're going to send this away. And we're going to summon out Futsu so that we can recur some of our resources back. And Ame, because it got tributed, we're going to use Ame's effect. That's going to summon itself back, as well as get us a Prayers. Or if you want the negation, in a simplified game state, the negation is probably more important. But if you're going to go for board nuking, depending on matchup, then go for Prayers instead. But simplified wise, let's go with the nuker. And because we also tributed, yeah, that's it. And that's essentially it. But now, if you want to go further, than that, then you should go for Prayers. Get the Prayers into hand, okay, and of course summon back your Ame. Activate the Prayers, tribute away your Futsu, and you get to add SAJI into your hand, so you can search for another spell next turn, and you get to summon back your other monster. Next, because you tributed the Futsu, Futsu is going to activate, summoning itself back onto the field, and you can get yourself a Purification. End board, you still have one hand rip because you add the additional cost for your opponent, or else their cards or effects are going to be negated. Then there's also the purification. For the negate, you have the board wipe with the dweller, and you can recover your cards. Maybe even go back into your duo drive if your Eclipse Twins dies, or if you choose to link it off in a later turn. That's it for this video on Mitsurugi Ryzeal. To be honest, like, when was the last time we got like a TCG premiere that was this hyped up? I mean, this one is pretty crazy, but this is not my favorite blend of Ryzeal. In fact, it's not even Fiendsmith. If you guys can guess what it is, leave it down in the comment section, and I'll showcase one of the most degenerate ways to play Ryzeal. It is, I think 3 people played it, and all of them top, so probably gonna enjoy playing and not enjoy playing against. That's it for this one. Don't forget to hit the like button along the way out, and if you've been here before and you want to see more stuff from MST.TV from myself or Nishi, then hit that subscribe button, send it to the Shadow Realm. All right, and until next time, well, good luck on your polls. Good luck on your polls today, and I'll see you all in the next one.